I think it's important to know that that was a process that was necessary to get those companies back on their feet so they could start hiring more people. That was precisely what I recommended and ultimately what happened.
Let me give the president a chance. Go ahead.
Candy, what Governor Romney said just isn't true.
You'll get your chance in a moment. I'm still speaking.
Well,
and the answer is I don't believe people think that's the case because that wasn't a question.
Okay.
That was a statement. I don't think the American people believe that. I will fight for oil, coal, and natural gas. And the proof where the people want it, those things will get us the energy we need.
Mr. President, the next question is for you.
He actually got the first question, so I get the last question, last answer on that one.
Actually, in the follow-up, it doesn't quite work like that, but I'm going to give you a chance here. I promise you I'm going to. And the next question is for you. So if you want to, continue on, but I don't want to leave all these guys sitting here.
Candy, I don't have a policy of stopping wind jobs in Iowa, and that they're not phantom jobs. They're real jobs.
Okay.
I appreciate wind jobs in Iowa and across our country. I appreciate the jobs in coal, oil, and gas. I'm going to make sure that taking advantage of our energy resources will bring back manufacturing to America. We're going to get through a very aggressive energy policy, 3.5 million more jobs in this country. It's critical to our future.
Candy,
we're going to move you along to taxes.
I'm used to being interrupted.
All right, we're going to move you both along to taxes over here, and all these folks that have been waiting. Governor, before we get into a vast array of who says what study says what, if it shouldn't add up, if somehow when you get in there isn't enough tax revenue coming in, if somehow the numbers don't add up, would you be willing to look again at a 20%?
Well, of course they add up. I was someone who ran businesses for 25 years and balanced the budget. I ran the Olympics and balanced the budget. I ran the state of Massachusetts as a governor, to the extent any governor does. I know what it takes to balance budgets. I've done it my entire life. So, for instance, when he says, yours is the $5 trillion cut, well, no, it's not, because I'm offsetting some of the reductions with holding down some of the deductions. And
Governor, I need to have you both hang up. I understand the stakes here. I understand both of you, but I will get run out of town if I just described to you, Mr. President.
I just described to you precisely how I do it with a single number that people can put, and they can put their deductions and credits into that bucket.
Mr. President, we're keeping track. I promise you. And Mr. President, the next question is for you. So stay standing. And it's Catherine Fenton.
A college-level job, that's not what we have to have. I'm going to help women in America get good work by getting... Thank you, and I appreciate that question. I just want to make sure that I think I was supposed to get that last answer, but I want to point out that I don't believe...
I don't think so, Candy.
I don't believe...
I want to make sure our timekeepers are working
here.
The
timekeepers are all working, and let me tell you that the last part, it's for the two of you to talk to one another, and it isn't quite as ordered as you think. But go ahead and use this 2 minutes any way you'd like to. The question is on the floor.
I just note that I don't believe that bureaucrats and policy is completely and totally wrong.
Governor,
let me come back and answer your question. President Bush and I are different people. Anything else the president said it was a moment ago, and I didn't get a chance to when he was describing Chinese investments and so forth.
Candy, hold on a second.
Mr. President, I'm still speaking.
I'm sorry.
Mr. President, why don't you let me finish? I'm going to continue.
Governor Romney, if you can make it short. See all these people? They've been waiting for you. Could you
make it short? A point. Any investments I have over the last 8 years have been managed by a blind trust. And I understand they do include investments outside the United States, including in Chinese companies. Mr. President, have you looked at your pension? Have you looked at your pension?
I've got to say.
Mr. President, have you looked at your pension?
You know, I don't look at my pension. It's not as big as yours, so it doesn't take as long.
Let me give you some. Let me give you some advice.
I don't check it that often.
Let me give you some advice. Look at your pension. You also have investments in Chinese companies. You also have investments outside the United States. You also have investments through a Cayman's trust.
We're sort of way off topic here, Governor Romney.
We're a little off topic here.
Completely off the immigration.
I thought we were talking about immigration.
And
I came back to what you spoke about before.
I do want to make sure.
If I could have you sit down, Governor Romney, thank you.
I do want to make sure that we just understand something.
I want to make sure we get that for the record, because it took the president 14 days before he called the attack in Benghazi an act of terror.
Get the transcript.
He did, in fact, sir. So let me call it an act of terror.
Can you say that a little louder, Candy?
He did call it an act of terror. It did as well take it did as well take 2 weeks or so for the whole idea of there being a riot out there about this tape to come out. You're correct about that.
The administration indicated that this was a reaction to a video and was a spontaneous reaction. It took them a long time to say this was a terrorist act by a terrorist group. And excuse me, the ambassador of the United Nations went on the Sunday television shows and spoke about how this was a spontaneous reaction.
I'm happy to have a longer conversation about foreign policy.
Absolutely, but I want to move you on, and also people can go to the transcripts.
I just want to make sure that all these wonderful folks are going to have a chance to get some of their questions answered.
Because what I want to do, Mr. President, stand there for a second, because I want to introduce you to Nina.
We've had with regards to gun violence in some respects is what is known as Fast and Furious, which was a program and AK-47 type weapons were given to people that ultimately gave them to drug lords and killed Americans with them. And this was a program of the government. For what purpose it was put in place in our society, which has occurred during this administration, which I think the American people would like to understand fully. It's been investigated to a degree, but the administration has carried out executive privilege to prevent all the information from coming out. I'd like to understand who of the violence, thousands of guns going to Mexican drug lords.
Governor, if I could, the question was about these assault weapons that once were banned. So if I could, if you could get people to for it.
We haven't had the leadership in Washington to work on a bipartisan basis. I was able to do that in my state and bring these two together.
Quickly, Mr. President.
Sure, we can reform Medicare and Social Security to preserve them for coming generations. The president said he would. He didn't.
Governor.
I'll get our incomes up. And by the way, I've done these things. I served as governor and showed I could get them done.
Mr. President, last 2 minutes.